I want to start with something that the chairman of your January 6th committee has already revealed. He said that Virginia Thomas, in her testimony, said that she believes that the 2020 presidential election was stolen. He was very clear about that. What else can you tell us about what she said about the stealing of the 2020 presidential election?
Well, Lawrence, as you know, and as you outlined a couple moments ago, I'm very limited in what I can say. I did participate in almost the entire interview of several hours. She didn't assert privilege, so at least not while I was present. So she did answer the questions that we had. And of course, we had questions that go to many of the things you pointed out in that opening statement that she released. She says, for example, I generally don't talk about my day-to-day activities. Well, that leaves a lot of wiggle room. Generally means there may be exceptions, and day-to-day means, well, maybe not day-to-day, but maybe in other terms, these issues may have been discussed. So we asked her about that. We asked her about these claims of fraud that the Attorney General appointed by Donald Trump rejected as BS, that his White House counsel rejected, that others rejected, that U.S. attorneys he had appointed rejected. And whether that changed her view of these claims of fraud. And, you know, at some point, I'm sure either in our hearing or at a later date when we release our report, we'll be able to share the answers to those questions. But we did have a thorough interview, and she did respond to each of the questions we asked.
What about memory? Was I do not recall a frequent or occasional response?
You know, I don't want to characterize, to what degree she relied on that. It was not one of those interviews where you get a total failure of recollection, and I've had those interviews before. Indeed, I remember deposing Karl Rove over the scandal of the firing of U.S. attorneys during the George W. Bush administration, and he had a massive failure of recollection. So it was not that kind of an interview. People will be able to, when we release transcripts of these interviews, evaluate to the best they can the credibility of the witnesses, and I'll leave that to their judgment.
What would you say, or can you say anything about your impression of her credibility?
I really want to refrain from trying to characterize that at this point. And I would rather have the public, when they have the opportunity to review the transcript, make their own determination.
There is the question of whether some of her testimony might be used in the next committee hearing. What is your sense of that at this point?
We just had the interview today. We haven't had a chance to discuss whether there are elements of that we might want to incorporate into the next hearing. I think it's very possible, but there hasn't been any judgment made by the committee.
How would you describe the importance of her testimony to the investigation?
Well, I think each of these witnesses adds value in the sense that we get new insights, or we at least get the satisfaction of knowing we've run this lead to ground and satisfied ourselves that we've learned as much as we can learn from a particular witness. I don't want to characterize this as, significant, insignificant. We thought that she had important information to share. She obviously was in communication with Mark Meadows and others. And as you read in those messages to Mark Meadows, she used awfully strong language in support of, this broader effort to claim that the election was marred by massive fraud that in reality did not exist.